The London Gem and Mineral Show is back, taking place at Sandown Park Racecourse on Saturday the 23rd and Sunday the 24th of November. Experience the best of the crystal, mineral and fossil industry as we gather the finest specimens over 2 unforgettable days. You can discover hands-on workshops and activities, crack open your own geodes and delve into talks from the industry experts. And not forgetting that the Opal Whisperers from the Discovery Channel are back, coming all the way from Australia with some show-exclusive pieces in tow. So what are you waiting for? Join us for an immersive journey at the London Gem and Mineral Show, where traders and enthusiasts alike are invited to discover the Earth's natural treasures all under one roof. Book now at thegemandmineralshow.com or follow us on Instagram at The Gem and Mineral Show. We'll see you there. Want to discover London like never before? Step beyond the surface with WOW Tours. Explore the city's hidden spiritual secrets, walk ancient ley lines and uncover the mysteries of London's past, present and future. Brought to you by Wisdom on Wellness and led by renowned crystal author and Akashic Records reader Gemma Petherbridge, these are more than just tours. They're journeys into the heart of London's esoteric history. Book your spot today and see London through a whole new lens. Visit wowtourslondon.com for tickets. Hello and welcome to the WOW Talks podcast. Today's episode is a special one and it was recorded live at WowFest this year with the incredible Maude Hirst. Now, Maude is a globally recognised meditation expert, a motivational speaker, founder, coach and author, and she joined us at WowFest to share her insights on a busy world and how to do it. Now, you might remember Maude as Helga from the hit TV show Vikings, but she is now making waves as a leading wellness practitioner. She is the founder of EnergyRise, a meditation company, and co-founder of Home of Connection, a wellbeing consultancy. Now, Maude has dedicated her career to making the transformative benefits of meditation accessible to everyone. And in this conversation with Sarah Lamptey at WowFest, Maude reveals practical tips and strategies to harness meditation's power for a more balanced and fulfilling life. So get ready to dive into the world of meditation with Maude Hirst and discover how it can become your ultimate superpower. We hope you enjoy.
There's been such brilliant talk so far today, and I know that the next one is just going to be just the same, and so wonderful to meet you. So this is Maude Hirst. And there's so much to talk about. It's actually only half an hour. It'll go quick. So I'm just going to jump straight to the questions. And if anyone has got any questions, because it is only half an hour, just come and grab Maude afterwards. I'm sure you won't mind that.
Yes, absolutely. I'll be here.
But there is so much to say. I love that this talk is titled A Busy World and How to Do It. I feel I've used meditation to sort of grasp moments of calm in the past and then sort of switch immediately back to a journey, like I said this morning, or sort of, okay, I really need some moment of calm, try and access it, and then kind of revert back to the hectic path that I was on, I think. A goal for me is to sort of integrate peace into each day, so it's just so good to talk to you. Where can I start with that? Where can I start with sort of leading a more peaceful life?
It's really hard. I mean, great question, but it is, I mean, we live in a world, I was actually saying in my class just now, I feel like post-COVID, it has got so fast. I feel like we're all moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I think to start with just being super gentle with ourselves and like realizing that we don't need another to-do list and another thing to add to it because we've all got so much. So what I say, just like a great place to start, is those moments when you first wake up and the last thing before you go to bed are such a perfect opportunity to just check in with yourself, to slow down the pace, especially in the morning, because if you start your day, and so many of us wake up and the first thing we do is grab our phones, and then already we're in like anxiety mode, and have we responded to our 8 million emails, and you know that whole anxiety build. If we pause and we take a moment to wonder how we're breathing, to slow down the breath, that sets us up in this new pace for the rest of the day. So I think like the most integral thing for me is like, can you take, even if it's 5 minutes, just at the beginning of the day, because it really does set the tone for the rest of the day.
I also find that we have, how many people here have got their phone as their alarm clock? That's me as well. Yeah. And it's to this day, I used to do these sort of workshops with kids in school, and I used to say, don't have your phone as your alarm clock. but it was always mine as well. It just sort of made sense. Unfortunately, technology is set up to make sense, to boost productivity, to make everything sort of, in your watch where you can do a million things with it all. And as a result, we have got something like our phone being our alarm clock, which is also our news in the morning, any terrible thing that's happened overnight.
Yeah.
What's your morning been like? What was your morning like? And what's this afternoon been like for you?
Today, my morning, I started this morning, whenever I teach, I always have a morning of meditation and just make sure that I've kind of checked in. I really believe that like listening to your intuition is the most important thing. And so I kind of check in with, what does my intuition want to share today? What do I think could really work? And then I came here a few hours early just to kind of sense the energy. And it's so beautiful. Firstly, isn't it? Just the most beautiful location, but also the people that are here, it just feels like a very warm, open energy, and people are really kind of ready to jump in. So I've just had the most brilliant day, and I just taught a meditation class and everyone really sunk deep and lots of visualization. So yeah, it's been really special.
Oh, beautiful. And we're talking about a busy life and a busy world, of course, and how to sort of navigate that. And I suppose how to not go completely off grid, how to sort of still be in the world maybe that we want to be or need to be in, which is quite busy, but still manage to keep sane, essentially. But you've had a really busy life. So you've had your production company and you've acted, and I think you still act as not.
I never say never to anything.
No, yeah,
I'm very much just like, you never know, but I don't consciously act anymore. I definitely just run my business.
So you've done so much, and of course now in wellbeing and spirituality. Can you talk us through a little bit of that path? Because you've done, like I said, you could write your memoir already.
I feel like we all have so many lives within one life, don't we? And so I trained from when I was very young. I started auditioning for things when I was 10 years old. So I was an actor from when I was a kid, really, until my late 20s. And I was in a big show called the Vikings for years. And at the end of my 20s, I had a huge life breakdown. I came out of a relationship really traumatically. I had to sell my house really quickly, and I'd come out of the show, and I was left with this giant void in front of me. And I felt like I had these two clear choices. One was to sink into the emptiness of it and kind of go into the darkness of it, or the other was just to realize there was an opportunity of change and an opportunity to feel and get to know myself for the first time in a long time. And the acting world, as glamorous as it is on the outside, it is a roller coaster of internally, because you're either up or you're down, you're either working or you're not working. And I had this amazing few years of just kind of soul searching, doing a lot of meditation for myself. And in that meditation, I suddenly started finding a really deep inner confidence and a deep knowing about who I was, who I wanted to be, what made me feel happy, what kind of connections I wanted. And I really got passionate about sharing some of the really simple tools, because often we think of meditation as something quite inaccessible, and that we have to disappear for 10 days and go to a retreat, which can be good to do occasionally, but we don't always have time to do it. But actually, some of the fundamental tools are 5 to 10 minutes can be such a game changer. And I started realizing the more I spoke about it, the more I inspired other people to. I could see other people's lives changing. So yeah, now I'm just obsessed with making meditation accessible in a world that feels like there's more anxiety than ever before. Mental health is in the worst state it's ever been. And I think meditation is like a toolkit to getting to know ourselves, and it kind of puts us back into the driving seat and empowers us in our own life. And I really want to inspire people to do that.
And you talk about making it accessible to all. Do you think there's still, I know there has been, do you think there's still a bit of an exclusivity to meditation and of course wellness as well? What do you say to that? And how can, if there is, how can we get through to people that really need it?
Yeah, there is definitely an exclusivity about it. And I also think, particularly with meditation, I think yoga has really spread quite widespread now, but there is still some belief that meditation is kind of a very inaccessible practice, that you already have to have a quiet mind to start, which is just not true. It's it's meant for the people whose minds are not quiet to find a pathway to find calm. And so I think one of the things to remember is that there's so many different practices. And again, we have this image that there's one kind of practice of sitting legs crossed in stillness. And what I've discovered over the last 6 or 7 years, diving really deep, is that you can do a movement meditation, you can do a visualization, you can do a mantra meditation, you can do a body scan meditation. And the teacher that you pick is really important, because some people's voices irritate us. And so you listen to it and you're like, nope, meditation is not for me. And then you hear somebody else's and you're like, oh, that really soothed my soul. And that's the person to listen to. It's like find somebody that feels accessible to you and don't give up if the first attempt doesn't work.
And how did you first start in getting into meditation, and especially when you've had, like we said, such a busy time? Was it you realised you needed something else? How did it?
No, it happened. I did a very cliche breakup retreat. So one of my best friends, when I went through that horrible breakup in my late 20s, was like, I'm taking you off to a yoga and meditation retreat. And I hadn't done anything before that. And I was quite dubious and quite resistant to it. But then on this retreat, I spent a lot of time by myself meditating and practicing yoga. And I realized for the first time what it felt like to connect with myself. I think I'd lived such a life of external validation, which the acting world definitely is all about, and escaping myself in other characters. And I suddenly kind of started to realize that I didn't know who I was really and what I felt. So meditation, so that was kind of my first experience of, wow, there's a fascinating inner landscape which I was unaware of. And that got me into this. Then I went to live in Peru in the jungle for 10 days. And then I went to do a silent 10-day meditation retreat.
Were they back to back? No.
And within like 3 years of each other, but no. But I then dove really deep because I was like, I really wonder what happens when you're left by yourself in silence for that long.
That parallel is really interesting, your life as an actor, and like you say, everything that you had to do to sort of be an actor, which was sort of separate yourself from who you really are, and then to try and actually in your late 20s, to having gone through so much to sort of find yourself really, is just incredible. And does it feel like a separate person that time before you found meditation, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, completely different person. I mean, I recognize elements of myself, of course, but I feel. Somebody said to me in an interview recently, weren't you really terrified to leave a world that felt really glamorous, that like the external world validated, to doing something that was much quieter and much less glamorous? And interestingly, what I feel is the opposite. Like my internal world when I was acting was very unglamorous. It was chaotic, anxious. I was partying a lot and really disconnected. And now I feel so glamorous on the inside, and I don't really care what the outside looks like because I feel like I have something to share and hopefully help people with, and that feels wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. There are so many forms of meditation, of course. I did the free silent meditation on your website, which was brilliant. I loved it. How did you determine which practice that you were going to pour your energy into?
I still haven't. I still tend to what I'm most passionate about is connecting people back to themselves. So offering as many different techniques as I possibly can. So I don't just choose one. I do a lot of visualization. I work a lot with the theta brainwave, which is the brainwave that is between asleep and awake, that like dreamlike state. And I guide people into that state. So that's a lot of kind of visualization and body scanning. But I do tend to mix it up because I want everybody to experience it, the feelings that I have experienced when you connect to yourself. And for each of us, that will be different. And so what works for me might not work for you. So yeah, I do tend to try and give a variety of practices because I want people to find their own path.
I was just wondering about confidence, because I would imagine you start along this journey, you're really exploring in different types of meditation, of course, working out what works for you. And at what point did you decide, I feel like I can help others? And did that take a sort of confidence to get to that stage?
It's been the weirdest thing for me because I think when I was acting, I was the least confident I'd ever been, even though, I had to perform and be in front of a lot of people. But weirdly, from the moment I started practicing meditation, I felt like I had found what I was always supposed to share. And it hasn't taken any confidence to share it because I don't feel it's about me. I feel like it's an ancient practice that I wish we'd all learned at school. And so I just feel like if I can get myself out the way and get my own nerves and confidence out the way, it's just about me trying to give people an experience. And that's been a really lovely feeling because I don't get nervous and scared about it. I didn't have to build confidence because I just felt like, let's just try and share this to whoever wants to listen and try and get this out in the world.
It was just the most natural thing for you. What was school like, by the way? Just as you said that, I thought, I wonder what school was like for you.
I went to a performing arts school called Italia Conti, and it was, my fiance always is like, you didn't even go to a real school. And my friends and I are all, it was quite wild. Every day we just really performed all day and then did a few academics in the afternoon. So it was filled with lots of brilliant friendships, lots of brilliant ways to express ourselves. But I don't feel like I've had a traditional education, but I feel like I learned a lot of life lessons, because what it did for all of us is make us quite confident in being unique. I think that's one thing I learned from school. Being kind of okay to do something different.
Thinking about intuition, I know it's an integral element to the work that you do. How do you define it, intuition, and why is it so powerful, and why is it at the centre?
So intuition, it for me means that like internal guidance. I always say it's like your internal sat nav, the voice that we all have within us when you go to make a decision. And there's always an inner voice that's saying this is the right way. We don't always listen to it. Often the mind gets in. And I've been asked, like, how do you know the difference between your mind trying to rationalize something and your intuition? And for me, intuition is very certain and the mind is questioning. So, for example, like if you're like, I have a job, I've just got this job interview, is it the right thing for me? Your intuition will be very clear, but your mind will be like, oh, I don't know if it works exactly with my life. Like, it's like, how do we shut up the mind so that we can actually start listening to that really reassured version of us inside of ourselves?
I'm just smiling because that's so brilliant, because it's such a great question, whoever asked you that, and I wish it was me. Yes, I was just about to ask you that. But I love that. That's so interesting, that actually, because I think this is it. It's we talk about the inner child, we talk about ego, then we talk about the inner voice, and trying to work out exactly the guide, I think is, and I suppose being still enough to really hear it. And like you say, how do I know that which one is the voice I'm meant to be listening to when they feel like there are so many and often at odds? And I really love that, the idea that the ones at odds are probably the ones that actually, the ones that are sort of unsure, probably not the ones that you really want to hold on to necessarily.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's like it's the difference between the mind and the heart. So I think like intuition is like a body feeling. Intuition definitely comes from neck down, and then the mind tries to rationalize, and our minds are just processing machines. They're brilliant and we shouldn't try and reject them, but they're also trying to make sense from everything we've lived by, and they don't know, they're not living from this place of like knowing. We have this like deep inner wisdom, this like innate wisdom that's not just ours but is the landscape of all of our ancestors and just being human. And sometimes the mind thinks it's wiser than that, but very rarely I think it is.
And I saw lately on your social media that you've started the venture Home of Connection. So how did that come about? And I know you've had some great events recently, so it'd be good to talk about those as well.
Yeah, so the Home of Connection is a new business that I've started with a friend of mine. And I was doing a talk and a big event, and she found me and we kind of started collaborating. And both of us feel that in a world that is so hyper-connected, seemingly so, like we have our phones all the time and we think we're seeing our friends every day because we're seeing them on social media, we are all craving deep connection and we're not actually sure where to find it. Like I go to events a lot and I sometimes leave feeling more disconnected than before I went. We tap in. It's almost like we've got this superficial new way of connection, which is like, I do feel like I've spoken to many of my friends just because I've seen their stories and I've seen what they're kind of doing, but I haven't actually really asked them, how are you feeling, what's happening? So we started a company called the Home of Connection, which is all about creating spaces and events and talks, finding better ways of connection. So we do things like we'll do a big event, and at the beginning we'll do a meditation, which grounds us all in and makes us all connect. We often have conversation cards, because another thing that I've realized is we first of all always meet each other and say, what do you do? And although it can be interesting to know what somebody does, it doesn't show us who that person is. It doesn't make us feel connected on a kind of deeper, more profound level. And if you ask somebody a question like, what brings you joy? Or what inspires you? Where was the last place you really felt connected? I suddenly get a glimpse into your soul. Do you know, like you have that deeper connection. So we're building this up at the moment. We've had some brilliant events recently. And yeah, I feel, and everybody I've spoken to always says like, yeah, I really want that connection too. So I'm hoping that it's a good time to be creating this kind of work.
I definitely think it is. I think so often in events, there's that question of what do you do as an immediate one that always seems to be on the tip of your tongue, or just trying to work out what to say and being maybe too stuck in, or maybe saying the right thing. And I just love to have those conversation ideas. I think it also teaches you surrender, and I don't need to worry about anything. This card will, whatever comes up, and you don't know what it's going to be. And I think that is a bit of surrender and letting it be, and that's a really brilliant way to sort of set the landscape. Is there a baby in here? Oh no, maybe it's a door. So I'm always really aware of my child who seems to be saying no constantly. Like I can hear her saying no everywhere. That's really, really wonderful. And I know that you put everyone's phones in boxes. Is that right?
Yeah, we do. I think this is I think digital detoxing is one of the things that we all need to do more. And we've been doing these amazing supper clubs where we get people to come in and lock their phones away. And then it's amazing. Just people look at each other and talk. And even if you're not using your phone, if you have it on the table, people's eye line, the message unconsciously that we're giving each other is that's more important. Like if that rings, I'm going to stop what we're doing and answer it. Whereas if they're not there, yeah, I mean, the experiences I've had now in groups where we don't have phones present. And I also got engaged actually in a place called Unplugged. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're like these tiny cabins that are dotted all like an hour outside of London. So I'm sure there's one locally to here. And you lock your phone in a box when you arrive. And it's just a little beautiful cabin in the middle of a forest. And you just go and disconnect. And it's such an amazing place because you have better conversations because you're not on your phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just really aware that my phone is the time at the moment. I just keep having to look at it to make sure we're not running over. And I lost my watch, I haven't replaced it recently. I need to, because then again, you're not having the associations. I also think for me, my phone can be a bit like, I think, oh, if I haven't got my phone on me, what if something happens and I don't know? And again, I think that sort of feeds a bit into the ego of me almost just because I've got my phone on me is not going to stop bad things happening. And certainly, there's a lot tied into the phone. I think that we have to constantly examine our relationship with it for sure. And not having it there is definitely, I think, probably the first step, isn't it?
Just in little moments. I think, it's unrealistic to say we're going to, get rid of it altogether. But just, for 5 minutes a day, or as you were saying, don't have it as your alarm clock. Or have it as your alarm clock, but have it out of your room so that you consciously have to make that moment where you kind of get out of bed and your first thing isn't the screen. So that you're just making little gaps that give you that little digital space.
I was going to ask you how easy you find it to unplug. I mean, do you find it easy, even with all the work that you're doing?
No, I don't think any of us do. I think, phones are designed for us to be addicted to them. And so I think unconsciously we all are in our own ways. I find it amazing. I find it really easy to unplug. Like once I'm unplugged, I'm out and I'm having the best time of my life. But it takes me, I'd say, half a day to completely kind of get off the pace. I live in London as well. So on that really fast pace, it takes me a little bit of time to kind of breathe deeper. And then,
and is it a situation where you sort of let people know that you're going to be doing it? So don't expect an answer from me, or are you able to just go, right, I'm just not going to,
A bit of both. I sometimes do just like to just not do it and not put. When I did my 10-day silent meditation retreat, you lock your phone away at the beginning of it. And the same with you were saying, I genuinely thought the world was going to implode in those 10 days. And I came out and it was like, nothing, the world is exactly the same as it was. Nothing ever changes. I think our ego believes that, there's so much more than we think connected to those things. But actually, as you say, the world continues to spin whatever we're doing. And I think just for our own minds, testing ourselves and testing our ability to turn it off is so important.
And talk us through those 10 days, because that's a long time. I've done the 3 days and I really, it's funny, a 3-day one is strange. I think it took me a while to get into it. And then I really was. And then I just got spat out into conversation again and people trying to text me, for God's sake. What were those 10 days like?
It was wild. It was kind of the most profoundly intense, scary and beautiful experience at the same time. The first, because you're just left with you. I was meditating for 10 hours a day for 10 days. So you're just left in the depths of your mind. And sometimes that's scary. And then other times it's so intriguing and amazing. And I got to a point about 6 or 7 days in where I would get physical pain in my body. I would sit with the pain and then that would turn into a memory. and then the memory would shift and the pain would go. And I started to recognize our mind-body connection is so much more powerful than we know. And then I had one evening where I fell asleep and my body fell asleep, but my mind was still aware. And I was like, I think what it taught me is the level of perception of what we think is normal is much more than it really is when you allow yourself to switch off.
Yeah. When was that? And would you do one again? How do you look on that time?
Yeah, when I left, I was like, I'm never doing this again, ever. And then now, it was probably about 4 years ago, and now I'm craving it again. So I think probably in the next couple of years, I'll do it again. Yeah.
And so much is going on for you, of course. I know you've got the Oracle cards and they're instrumental to your wellbeing work. And tell us a bit about Intuitive Whispers, which is amazing.
So they're here.
Here they are.
These are, I've just given some of you them, but if anybody wants to pull a card at the end, please come and pull one. So these are my new Oracle cards, or my first ever Oracle cards. The idea of them is it's a transformational deck that takes you through the 4 stages of healing that I feel like I've gone on through myself, which is the first set is all about listening to yourself, so slowing down, meditating. The second is all about clearing stuff, so clearing away the bits of you that no longer serve you. Then it's about rebuilding yourself in a conscious way, so listening to your intuition, like who do you want to be? How do you start rebuilding a life that actually feels intuitive to you? And then the last group of cards are all about taking action. So how do you take all of that and actually go into your life and make the changes? I'm so excited to have them out in the world. I feel like it's 7 years of meditation in like work kind of now out for people to be able to use. And yeah, I'm very excited to share them.
Brilliant. And how did you come? I just want to look at this artwork because it's so gorgeous. It's like Is a woman there as part of the tree?
Yeah, it's like grounding from the root up. It's all about kind of grounding and earthing in, and then it's it's like how connected we really are to nature. Yeah,
gorgeous. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And so where are you going to place your energy next? So you've obviously got your home of connection, you've got your Oracle cards. This is available for pre-orders. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then what else? I mean, there's a lot. That's enough, probably, actually.
All the things. I run a meditation app and a meditation community online as well, which is constantly running and is my pride and joy because I love the community that I've built, and anyone can join that at any time. And just keep on expanding my own awareness of meditation, keep training and keep sharing as much as I do. So really my love and energy for the next few months will be all on the cards. And I'm getting married. That's happening.
When's
too.
the marriage happening?
Next weekend, I'm doing the legal. I know it's all happening very soon. And then, in fact, this time next week, I will be at my wedding. And then the big party is the end of August.
Oh, congratulations. Well, please join me in thanking Maude. It's so brilliant to talk to you. And yeah, all the best with everything. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to our Wow Talks podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And we'd love for you to share your own wisdom on wellness. Join the conversation, share this episode with a friend, or follow us on social media for more updates at Wisdom on Wellness. Until next time.